Have you ever wondered what it's like to transition into spirit? Well, in this wonderful new interview with Mary D'Agostino, she talks about how her son, Brandon, described what it was like for him to transition into spirit. And in this interview with Mary, who's a professional intuitive, a spiritual counselor, a psychic medium, an astrologer, a teacher, and an author, you're also going to find out how Mary came out of the spiritual closet to Oprah Winfrey in 1999. What is divine intervention? What is a shared death experience? What happens when we transition to the other side? How does spirit talk to us through symbols, signs, inspiration, hope? And what is the symbolism of the number 111 in Mary's new book, 111 Days of Divine Intervention? Come join us. It's great. Heartfelt. Many blessings.
Hi there, and welcome to the Grief and Rebirth podcast. I'm your host, author and trauma survivor Irene Weinberg, here to encourage you wherever you are in your healing journey. In each episode, I chat with incredible grief and trauma specialists, healers, mediums, and celebs, as well as remarkable people who have inspiring healing stories to share. If you're looking for a podcast that's both uplifting and inspiring, you've found it. Let us help you find your joy in life.
Hi, everyone. I'm speaking to you today from my studio in West Orange, New Jersey, and I truly could not be more delighted to have the pleasure of once again interviewing Mary D'Agostino, a professional intuitive, a spiritual counselor, a psychic medium, an astrologer, a teacher, and an author who combines the various healing modalities she has mastered to assist others in living their most authentic, soul-aligned lives. Mary has been serving her fellow humans across the globe through her healing arts practice, aptly named Heart of Gaia Creative Healing Arts, since 2003. Mary is a mom to 5 grown children, one of whom is in spirit. Since her son Brandon's transition in 2017, she has focused on healing her own broken open heart and sharing the wisdom gained from meeting herself in the grief process. Brandon is now constantly with his mom, helping to guide and bring the exact right connections to her so that Mary can bring love, inspiration, and hope to others. I've had the pleasure of interviewing Mary several times on this podcast, and Mary shared many of her wise insights during my 2023 Living Your Most Evolved Life Summit. In her latest book, titled 111 Days of Divine Intervention, A Mother's Healing Journey, Mary shares uplifting miracles and synchronicities that prove our spirit lives. Our spirit lives on after death, and love is the undying connection. Mary also contributed a touching, beautifully written narrative about navigating grief through self-care, love, and compassion called How I Met Myself to my new book titled Good to the Last Drop, Embracing Your Life's Third Chapter. And she has also written a mesmerizing novel. I have to tell you, I love this novel. I can't wait for the next part to come out. She has also written a mesmerizing novel titled Into the Forest, with its sequel titled Book 2, Return to the Forest, Justice or Malice, due out this coming spring. I'm looking forward to asking Mary, who will be speaking to us from Fort Collins, Colorado, to describe what divine intervention is, to explain the symbolism of the number 111 in her new book, 111 Days of Divine Intervention, to describe her shared death experience with her son, Brandon, to share what Brandon told Mary about what happens when we transition, to illumine how spirit talks to us through symbols, signs, words of love, inspiration, and hope, and much more for an enlightening interview filled with divine insights for all of us. Hey, my friend Mary, a truly warm and heartfelt welcome back to Grief and Rebirth podcast.
Thank you so much. I am beyond delighted to be here. Beyond.
We always love getting together and sharing each other with everyone. It's just, I know it's like a delight for everyone. So I happen to know that you came out of your spiritual closet at the Oprah Winfrey show in 1999. Could you describe your spiritual journey and tell us about that story? Doesn't everyone come out of their spiritual closet at the Oprah Winfrey show?
No, thank you. Yes, I'll share that. Thank you, Irene, for that beautiful introduction. And I just want to say thank you for inviting me into this beautiful container that you create with all your podcasts. It's truly enlightening and healing for so many. And as Oprah, okay, you and Oprah, you got this going. So, my spiritual journey started, I think we're always on our spiritual journey, whether we look at it that way or not, right? But as a young child, I was very sensitive to energies, and I didn't really know what that was. But it was strong enough to give me a really, like, I would get little messages about life and love and angels, and I knew who was safe and who was not as people, and so I through my life I had divine interventions, so to speak, that would kind of guide me in certain directions. And the first one, I believe, and also before I go on, divine interventions can get you out of trouble. They can be like, oh, go this way, or an inner knowing that wakes up. So right now, that's what I'm going to just talk about. I'll talk a little bit more about those later. But I was I was barely 40. I wasn't 40 yet. And I lived a lifestyle that was taught to me that would bring me success, get married, find the man, get married, have a family. And I was on part 2 of that journey. And because I did get married first as a young teen.
When you knew nothing.
When I knew nothing. But during that period of time, I met my in-laws, who became my first spiritual teachers. And we dove into things in the early 80s in California: human consciousness, meditation, yoga. I lived in the Bay Area, of San Francisco Bay Area, and my mother-in-law was just awakening to all these things, and her and I were like this. And so that was my first awakening to really learning that there was another way I could live life, and I didn't have to follow the ways of the society or the culture or my parents. Get married, as I said, find a man, get married, have a family, and live happily ever after. But so that was the first little part of my life. And then I kind of put my spirit, I said, oh, spirit, I have to follow this culture path, because that's the only way I'm going to really be happy. That's what everybody tells me. And so I got married again and moved to suburbs, big house. He had a big job. And I was really not feeling like I belonged there. But, I had friends but I felt a little fish out of water. And I started back and I was not doing very well. I was not happy. I felt claustrophobic in trying to live this life that I was told would get me happiness and fulfillment and contentment. By that time I had 5 children.
Wow.
Yep. And I was doing all the mom things. Loved having my children. They were my miracles and my joy, and trying to do that. So living in a very much of a patriarchal type of world. And my spirit was so yelling at me, so much like, I can help you. But my heart was so sad. And so I started to listen, and I started to read my spiritual books again and get out my candles, get out my remembering my spirit. And spirit will always do this for us. It's like our soul, our spirit is relentless. We'll never, ever stop trying to get us to be loved, to listen, to find our soul joy. So I listened, but I had everything in my walk-in closet. So I'd put my words of wisdom. I started writing again and journaling, and I had my own personal walk-in closet. So all my stuff was in there. And when everybody was gone, kids went to school, husband went to work, I would take out a few things and sit and I'd meditate. But things started boiling and heating up. And I read this one book and loved it so much. I wrote to the author. I said, thank you for writing this book. She sent, unbeknownst to me, she sent my letter to the Oprah Winfrey show, because this author was pretty famous back then. She wrote one book called Simple Abundance, and it was on everybody's shelf. And then she wrote a second book, which was a little bit more, let's say, she talked about her marriage ending and her growing and healing. So anyway, Oprah called me.
Wow.
The Oprah show.
Right. But still, wow.
I know. And I was like, no way. But yes, it was them. And I went through their, it was really interesting because it was back in the day where there was no internet and all that. So they said, we want pictures of you. We want to record your voice. We want you to be on this show. How has she changed your life? How is it reading this book? And so I said, okay. And all these things happened. Like, we had this major snowstorm. Nobody could go anywhere when they were going to fly a crew in to film my closet. It ended up my son and I filmed my closet and me. So my closet, me, my voice, my world came out on the Oprah show. The show was aired March 17th of that year in 1999.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a shocker. It was like, I guess I have to come out now and be living this more fully. And I did. Within 2 years, we moved from that, that fantasy world that so many live in, that three-dimensional world of I'm happy, I'm
following all the rules. I'm supposed
following the rules of what your culture tells you you're supposed to do. All the roles, roles, that you're a mother, you're this way. You're a woman, you're this way. You're a parent, you're all of it. And I ended up moving to Colorado, and our family my husband got a job transfer. Unbeknownst to me, his job transfer was so that they could watch him, because he had to be under watch so they could fire him.
Oh,
and
really?
Unbeknownst to me and my family. And
why did they feel they could watch him in Colorado?
Because they put him in charge of a plant. They would have him more, because he did a lot of traveling. That was the only way I could stay in that marriage and in that false pretense of my life, was because he traveled a lot. So he was hardly ever home. And so they moved us there. So they gave him a different position. They gave him a couple different positions so they could legally bounce him out. Yeah. So anyway, when we put out a call to spirit goes to every level of our lives, truly. And here's what was really happening. Here's what was really happening underneath the facade, right? The 3D facade. And I was ready for it because I had woken up again, and I had all my spiritual life. Spirit brought to life that which I needed. So it was manifest. We talk a lot about manifesting in the spirit, how do we do that? And there's one thing about it is we have to bring what is in the highest and greatest good. And we don't know what that is always, but I will assure you that's what happens. And that's what happened to me. I had no idea that this was happening at his work. It was happening in the home too. He was being abusive. And
so wait, something's not computing with me, because his parents were your wonderful spiritual lights.
No,
this was your ex. The other. This was not them.
That was
marriage.
The first. Okay, I was married twice. I had to do it twice. You see, sometimes we do. I was married at 18, had 2 children. Those were the parents.
They started you on your path.
Yes, named Dick and Jane. And I love that too. They were amazing. Okay, so then I got divorced from that.
They must not have been happy that you divorced their son.
Well, they kind of felt like he deserved it, because he was an anomaly kind of in that family. They had a big family. I had a big family. The daughters were they're still my friends to this day. They're wonderful, wonderful. Now the Dick and Jane are passed, which is another divine intervention of Jane. I had my daughter Suzanne born on November 13th, the same day Jane, my mother-in-law, and my ex, they had a child. Dick and Jane had a child born on November 13th, a daughter who passed away from a heart defect at 6 weeks old.
Wow.
So then Suzanne's born 20 years later.
On the same day?
On the same day.
Wow.
She lives. I name her Suzanne instead of Susan. She's a bright light in my talk about past lives and how we come back. Suzanne came in. She came in for me to help me get out of my home, my family of origins, and start a different family, which I wanted to, and meet my in-laws and all of them, and then the story continues. I got divorced from him, remarried about 5 years later, this new husband. And he was the one who
brought you to Colorado, and then that was the whole...
Brought me from California to New England to Washington, D.C., and then to Colorado, which were all places, too, that I had previously lived or had connections with, which is so interesting. But here I am now in the middle, Colorado, and he's here. Within a year, find out that he's getting fired. And then I was ready, kind of, in a way, and the divine interventions continued. But I was awakened enough to call them in.
Enough to recognize them when they were coming into you, right? As opposed to ignoring the signs.
I mean, I tell you, for example, he had this one employee that was a woman, and he had a lot of trouble with women and in places of power. And she was the one that started the ball rolling with, she knew me. I didn't know she was doing this at the time. She started the ball rolling with getting him fired for for workplace improprieties. And so I did not know that until we were going through the divorce, and it got worse and worse and worse. And I think it was one point it was almost complete, and I said, Spirit, I need to know, why did this happen? And then the very next day I ran into her in a grocery store, and she told me.
Wow.
She told me the backstory of what was happening, and it all...
What a coincidence, right? That you happen to run into her like that.
Just so many, open to how spirit comes in, how your higher self, or I call it our higher self, our inner knowing, our inner divinity, our light, is always asking and connecting, and it's our ego self, or our mind, our human self. And when we get our human self activated with light, and we will, there's no stopping us then. It's like, oh, okay then. we can't get out of what our soul contracts are, meaning we're going to have to live through the challenges and we're going to have to live through them. But when we wake, we ask for help, we receive it, we acknowledge it. That's what I always say about synchronicities or divine interventions. When we ask for them and we get them, we say, thank you, bring more, bring more. And then it becomes like a way of life where you realize you're never alone. You're never without help. You're never without guidance.
I mean, they're all around us. They know what's going on. They're trying to help us from the other side.
Apparently so.
Right. So let me ask you, all right, so how did this 111 Days of Divine Intervention come about? Your book, what inspires you to write it? I mean, we're going to fast forward to more present day and tell us about that. What motivated you to do that? I mean, you've been through so many different things. You've written other books and all of a sudden now comes 111 days of divine intervention. Did Brandon come and say, hey, Mom, there's something else you need to do over here?
Well, yeah, let me talk about that. Personally, I wanted to do this. Everything that I've always been a writer, journaler. And so everything that I do, I feel like I want to do it to help others, to inspire others, because, as we progress on this path, we realize that our challenges are brought to us not to punish or that's something that people still kind of believe, oh, I'm not going to be touched by tragedy and sorrow because I'm not living, I have protections I have money, or I have people who love me, or I have a good job, or I have, healthy children or whatever. But that's not true. Challenges come and no one's immune to them. And so in my life, I realized that what I have gone through, I can help others to buffer the harshness that we sometimes, oftentimes, life challenges will bring. Also, I did have, and my intention is to share through my words, my writings, love, inspiration, and hope. And that actually was given to me shortly after I was divorced, and I was asking my guide, I've learned, oh, you have spirit guides. I said, what do I do with my life? I want to know what my purpose is, right? And we oftentimes ask that, and I heard them very clearly, and I still have it written. They said, be who you are. Go within, clear it out, and share a new language, teach a new language of love, inspiration, and hope. And that so resonated with me. Of course, our spirit guides are parts of us. There are beautiful parts of who we are. And so I wrote through the experience of death loss of my son. I had such divine interventions, such soulful spiritual connections that I knew I wanted to share them. And so I put them in a book, and it is written. My book has stories. Here's the cover of it. It has stories, 16 stories, and it's written like a day book. So you can open it up. And I wrote, so for example, I have to read this. Day 72. Today, reflect on family. Who are the people in your soul family? So, and then I have a little room if you want to write. So that is what inspired me to write 111 Days. And
but my question is for people listening to this, Mary, how do they know if the people in their lives are part of their soul family or not? Which is so interesting because I have little grandsons, and I've been teaching them a little bit about spirituality. And one of them recently asked me, have I been in your life before? Blah, blah, blah. How do people identify that? Because we have so many different personalities and people around us.
Yeah, I think that is so, I feel like, let's see, how do I identify our soul family? Well, there's many different, people talk about this and answers to that. But my answer is, in your heart. And also part of what I feel like we're doing collectively right now, meaning many of us, not just personally, is learning who our soul family is and connecting with them and building community with them. And oftentimes we're also healing from families of origin, which we used to believe no matter what happened, no matter how we were treated, we had to stick together for survival, right? But that is not true. So our soul family is that family that feels so very, very much like a part of our heart. And you know it without a doubt when you meet these people. And they might be your children, they might be your spouse, they might be siblings, but not always. So I say, you know in your heart. And then you kind of can look around and see who's on the same page as you are.
Yeah.
That's my simple answer for that.
That's interesting. That's so interesting. And tell me about the symbolism. Why 111 days of divine intervention? Why should you choose the number 111?
Okay, so because that is a special number for me through that is how Brandon gave me that symbol of 111, that he was still with me, that he was going to be okay. And so that's why I used 111, the 111. And so I'll go into, in order to do that, I'll talk about my shared death experience.
Please do.
Because that's when it started.
And it's such a profound shared death experience you had. I think that people will really be interested in this.
So a shared death experience, I'm sure people also heard the term near death. And that's when you personally either have an experience through an accident or a physical accident or almost die. And you have a spiritual experience, spiritually transformative, and you come back. And then there's this shared death. And that's when someone you love or know or very deeply connected with passes, and you also have the experience of going to the beyond or being with them. So that's a shared death. And so with Brandon, what happened was, here he was, 24 years old, my youngest child, and he had recently, a few months prior, gotten a great job that he was so excited about. He loved luxury cars. So he got a job selling luxury cars. He had moved into a new apartment, and he was really getting his life on track. And he had struggles, but he took me through these struggles in a way that we both learned and grew. But, as a mom, I was, oh boy, I don't know about him. He's, he's keeping me growing. So he was doing his thing, working, selling cars. And a couple of days, the date was January 11th, 2017. So
again, the 11.
1-1. And I happened to get my friend sent me an audio meditation. She said, here, you might want to listen to this meditation. It's called 111 Meditation with the Archangels. And
wow.
I said, okay, I'll listen. So I listened to that meditation, and as I did, I felt very uncomfortable. I felt the angels on either side of me, the guardian angels. I felt their presence. And backing up, I work a lot with angels. I always have since I was a child. I've had angels connection. And I also do many guided meditations in my work and for myself. It's a great way to really go into your own inner spirit. So I'm in this meditation, and the angels are telling me, I see columns of light, 3 columns, 1, 1, 1. And it felt like a really tight squeeze, but I was supposed to go through the light, and they would help me, and they were kind of pushing me. And so I did. And in the meditation, and they said, I wrote in my journal afterwards about what I heard the angels say. Just stay straight on the straight and narrow. Just keep going and looking forward. You're going to be okay. But you have to go forward. You have to go through this portal. And so for 2 days, I was kind of in like a altered state, which I know what that feels like. It just feels like you're dreamy, kind of. I was grounded still, and so then on January 13th, it was 2 days later, Friday, I was in a session with 2 clients, a couple, and they were asking me some questions and asking about their past loved ones and things. And in the session, all of a sudden, I started to have this vision of this angel, giant angel goddess. It looked like a goddess figure in the night sky. And it was about 7:30 p.m. on a January evening. So it was a dark night sky outside. And this angel goddess showed me how she was taking stars out of the sky and placing them on the earth, and then picking them up off the earth and placing them back in the sky. And it was profound. I felt it, and I was like, that's like life and death. And I shared it with my clients. I said, I just saw this beautiful image. And we both just we all looked at each other, and I knew it wasn't really for them. I knew, and that rarely happens, but I was like, wow, I just saw life, how life happens and death happens. And so that evening, after the clients left, I was in again, in an altered state, and looked on my phone before I went to sleep, and I saw photos of my son, Brandon, on his birthday, which was a couple months prior, and I felt peace. I felt this deep sense of peace. I went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and was told he was missing.
Wow.
So we did find, he had, at the same time I was having that vision, is when he was passing. It's when he was leaving. He took the car out. He went down a dark road.
It was like one of those fancy cars, right? One of those luxury cars.
It was a Maserati.
Mm-hmm.
He drove it down a dark road, which is where they would take it for test drives. And he also filmed. He was videoing with his phone the speedometer on the car as he drove. Lots of not good things, lots of risk-taking behaviors that he was apt to do. And the speedometer, the reason we know this is because he posted the video. It was about 14 seconds long. It's forever on Google. You can Google it, where he's driving, and it shows the speedometer going from 2 miles all the way up to 111.
Oh my gosh.
And stopping.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that he posted that it got posted on Facebook. So when we were looking for him the next morning, I immediately went onto his social media to see where he might have been, and saw that 111 video. And I knew my son went through the portal, the 111 portal. He went through the life
that you had visualized in the shared experience that you had.
Yes, I saw
it. Amazing.
So that was our shared death experience that and so I think you might want to ask me a question, so direct me, because I'm going to talk.
Okay, well, the other thing I want to ask you is, he also described to you what happens when you transition.
Right.
So let's share that with everyone listening, because people are going, okay, I'm starting to accept the fact that my body is going to die, but then what happens? And I have to say also, I asked Saul, my husband, the same question when I was writing the book and channeling They Serve Bagels in Heaven, and he described his experience with transition. So what did Brandon have to say? How did that go for him? We know he went through a portal. I know that Saul also went through a portal. Sometimes they describe they went over a bridge, or there are other things that happen. So what was Brandon's experience?
Yeah. So about a month after he passed, and I was out walking, and I do hear him. I hear him in my mind, and I talk to him. I heard him say, "Do you want to know what it was like when I died?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Yes." I said, "But wait, I don't want to know anything that will make me sad or scared and he's like, "No." And I said, "Wait, I'm going to go home and I'm going to write this down." So I will read to you what he wrote, he told me, and I wrote. So I said, "Tell me what happened when you died." He said, "So here's how it went. I was driving, and along came this giant angel. She snatched me right out of that car. She lifted me up and held me in her arms, and I thought it was you, Mom. I thought it was you. She smelled like you, she looked like you, she felt like you, and it was like I was going home. She held me, and we watched the car just for a moment, and then she took me somewhere, and she held me again and told me how much she loved me. And I still thought it was you. I think it was you." He said, "I felt the connection, like when you love me, and that love goes on and on. She was your love and my love and all the love I ever felt and all the love I ever gave. I felt this warm glow, and it's where I return to over and over again." He said, "I remove myself from it and I visit places. And then I return to that love." And then he said, "But I really can't ever leave it, ever. It was all a part of the plan to light up this love again in our family, to make it the love the strongest. It was more like remembering. We forgot, but you never forgot, Mom. You never forgot love. And there's so much love, Mom." And I said thank you to him. And he said, to remind me, he said, "Your angels are telling you that you need to receive this love now." So the feeling I got, and how he said he got picked up and he was scooped up in the arms of this angel goddess, me. And I could feel it.
Well, that's what they do, though. They establish this, which Saul explained to me also. When I talk about they serve bagels in heaven, they give you something that you acclimate to that is very familiar to you before you get the more universal picture. Would you agree with that? So,
Yes.
Right? So Saul was given, his mother met him with bagels and coffee in heaven or whatever. And Brandon was met by your love, which would be what would acclimate him to prepare him to begin to expand to his more universal view, right? Would that make sense?
Absolutely, because it was like he was coming home, and what he meant by that, it was like he was coming in the front door, which is all my kids do, of my home, which is made in love. And I was very clear about that for years, that when I, created my home space, that it was everyone who walked through the front door would know how loved they were, and how it was all about the peace and inner peace, and that they could have a good meal too if they were.
Well, that was part of the love.
Right, if they needed to be fed. If they needed to be fed. And he even said that. He goes, "That you fed me so much love." And so yes. So we are met with what we equate with love and warmth and greetings and connection. And then he's like, then I go places, but he goes, but then I come back to the love. So I would suppose my son, because I had many, many sightings of him and interventions and symbols. And I do want to talk about that, the signs and symbols.
Yeah, please, because people don't really know how to identify the symbols they're receiving. And they're different. Like somebody may be told they're getting ladybugs or something, but someone else may be getting signs from nature or some. So could you talk? Some people are getting little dimes.
Right.
So could you talk to that also,
yes,
Mary?
Absolutely. definitely. So this is so important, Irene, because it's interactive. We're so we really are always connected to spirit, to our loved ones in spirit, and to our own soul. I mean, it's in us. It is us. And so what do we resonate with? What is meaningful to us? What has meaning? And so so with Brandon and the 111, so that was, prior to his passing, I had that 111 meditation. And I'm going to say this about that number. The number 111, it's any number, all numbers are symbols. So they're ticks that we all understand. It kind of blows your mind when you think about it. We all understand a 2, we all understand what a little squiggly line of a 3 means. But so that's kind of how they work with numbers too. They show you, you can look at birth dates, for example, like you might have a pattern of birth dates in your family. You might have a pattern of death dates or important anniversaries. But with the 111, there isn't one universal meaning. And I'm going to say this about it all. But it means, to me, it was pay attention, and then I had that meditation that was like, pay attention, go forward, a 1 is like a straight line. You just stay on this line and you're not going to get lost. You're going to go, keep going.
You're on the right path. Keep going.
You're on that path. So that was what it meant to me. And that, I would say, our listeners here, yes, that is what you can look at it as. So when I saw it in the meditation, and then he showed me on the speedometer, the 111. And then I'll tell you this part too. It was his first birthday after he passed. So 9 months later, and I was on a massage table, and I could feel his soul. I was very upset and crying, of course, on the beautiful day of his birthday. And he said, "Mom, it's 111 days between my death day and my birthday and my transition day." And I was like, what? No way. It is. It's exactly. Wow. So September, his birthday in September till he passed in January is exactly 111 days.
Wow.
And then that number kept showing up in various places. So I pay attention. So that's what I say. So there's some that are kind of universal, like feathers, which I see a lot of in birds, which I've always loved, are signs from spirit, because birds are symbolically known to us as touching spirit, being able to rise above the human consciousness. So feathers will say hello from spirit, hello from your loved one. If you find feathers, and I found lots and lots of them.
Wow.
And I always I love feathers and birds. And so the other symbols and signs, repetitive. Also, pennies, yes, pennies and dimes. And with Brandon, it was, but I want you to make it your own. So, we share information. I share love, inspiration, and hope, as you do, Irene. And just a little inspiration to ask your loved one, what kind of sign would you like to show me? And try the dimes or nickels or pennies, try the feathers, try numbers, and then keep asking, and you'll get your own personal signs.
Well, I have a funny story for everyone, Mary, that I want to add. So after the car accident and my spiritual awakening, Saul used to watch Monday Night Football every single Monday night at 9 p.m. For the first 3 months, we were in the middle of football season after the car accident. For the first 3 months, I had an old TV in my office that had to be turned on by pulling the knob. There was no remote. There was none of that, right? Every Monday night, magically, at 9 p.m., that TV would go on with Monday Night Football, and 15 minutes later, it would turn off. And I didn't understand in the beginning what that was. What is wrong with my TV? And then as I learned more, I was like, oh, you wise guy. That was your sign to that was Saul's sign. It wasn't a dime. It wasn't anything like that. It was Monday Night Football.
And that's exactly it. It's like their energy, their love, their connection to you is continuous. It does not die. It doesn't go away. I want to share that they do know how to work through electronics, our spiritual loved ones, our loved ones in spirit. And Brandon, we talked about things like this in our family before he passed. So he was very intrigued by it. And it was like he just knew I knew he was not long for this life, my son, Brandon. He just wasn't quite, he was a lot more spirit than human. Yeah. Let's put it that way. But what he did, lights, turning on and off. We have a street light right across the street from my home. And on the night of his celebration of life, my kids were outside, some of them. And I went out there and there was a moon and my one daughter-in-law started howling at the moon and the street light across the street started flashing on and off.
Wow.
And then it would for 2 years. Every time I would go out there and ask, it would flash. Anytime my kids would drive up and it was dark, the light would flash. And it went away. It stopped doing it. And I want to also encourage our listeners, and it's like, keep asking because then they'll do it a different way. That was so profound, Irene, that he turned the TV on for Monday Night Football. And no matter what, your loved ones are sending you things that are so private. And that, to me, I was the only one that knew. I did that meditation and had that 111 experience in my meditation. No one else knew that. No one else knew it. And then for my son to show me the 111 in his video.
So amazing.
I'm like,
wow.
He could no. So what happens is we're connected to that web, of light and connection, heart, soul family. And there is no disconnecting that. There is strengthening of it. And that's my work. It's strengthening our own light, healing, encouraging us to shine our light and knowing our connection.
Right. So let me ask you this. So, your book, I've read it. It's wonderful. Tell everyone why 111 Days of Divine Intervention would be a great gift to give oneself or to another who is grieving. And I love that the book proceeds are going to the Brandon Angels Foundation, which we're going to provide a link to. Tell us about all of that, Mary. It's such a great book as the holidays are coming. I think it's a wonderful book to gift someone who's grieving at the holidays to help them ease their passage through the holidays even.
Yes, Irene. Irene, we didn't talk. I will definitely promote, but we didn't even we didn't talk about Good to the Last Drop.
Oh yeah, let's do that in a little while.
Which is another great gift. But anyway, so this book is because I contributed to the Good to the Last Drop, but they're both containers of love. So when you get this book, it is, and this was my intention, and you hold it and it's a healing. So, it's like, oh, thank you. And you can open it up to any page and receive inspiration and what you need. And so it's a great gift for self. And it doesn't have to be just for if you're going through a death loss. It's also for any type of transition, any type of challenge. And boy, there's no shortage of challenges right now to give you this connection to your soul, your spirit, and to start opening you up to the possibilities of there's something so much greater. There's a greater plan. And where is your specific place in that? And how can you receive what you need? So that's what this book is. And again, there's places to journal in it and write. There's many more stories of divine interventions that I hope will you'll feel the gift is feeling that wow factor of how could that have happened? That's a miracle. And that's what a divine intervention is, a miracle, a synchronicity. It's like when something beyond explanation happens to, we don't know these people, but they all somehow conspire on our behalf and just do one little thing. And then that's those divine interventions. That's those synchronicities. And
actually, giving the book to someone is in a way its own divine intervention.
yes.
Because if someone is struggling and grieving and you give them that book and you're injecting that hope and inspiration into that person's life, it's such a difficult time. I mean, especially at the holidays.
Absolutely. And so giving the book Brandon's Angels is the foundation I created. It's still just kind of getting off its feet. But Brandon was a great giver of, he took care of all of his friends. He would bring home children for me to raise and feed. Wow. And he was such a loving soul. And so this foundation is, the proceeds from my book go into that. And I have a few other we're looking at ways to raise money that all my children are involved in. But really, it's to anyone that that needs some extra help through grief, go to Brandon's Angels. And I'll give them the book. I give care packages right now. We're doing care packages. So little things that I'll send to people that are in the throes of grief, which you know how important that can be. And those are divine interventions. They're how we take care of each other and how we let each other know that we're not alone on this journey, that not only do our loved ones in spirit really shout to us, but they hold us and connect us with other people that are our soul family.
Beautiful. Mary, you do so much for everybody. And this book is such a great gift for the holidays. And believe me, we'll get to good to the last drop in a little bit. But tell everybody what you do, because you do so much to help people. You've got weekly energy updates. You have channeled messages. You're a professional intuitive. You're a spiritual counselor. You're a psychic medium. And you're an astrologer. So would you like to tell everyone all the ways that you can help them and anything else you'd like people to know about the ways you help people heal in so many different ways?
Yeah, thank you. So I created a healing arts practice so that and it grew over the years. So everything I do has healing at its core. And being pretty much born intuitive and born, I will say, a medium. And for me, a medium is someone who connects not only with the loved ones of passed on loved ones, but also with the land and the animal spirits and the trees. And I always was that way. So I offer, through the years, I learned things, I studied things, and I also have found out that my family, and I know that my ancestors, this is in my lineage, right? And and so I had a great grandmother who was the town herbalist and would, those things kind of weren't talked about. So now what I do is I do Reiki. I learned Reiki, and that again felt very familiar to me when I learned it. And I do, that really helped me wake up my intuition in a very clear and contained way that I could help people.
Is Reiki something you also can do from a distance?
Yes, absolutely. I do distance Reiki. In fact, this afternoon, I'll have a distance Reiki. It's like prayer, and it goes across time and space. It's like our loved ones in spirit. There's no time and space that can stop the Reiki. It's life force energy. So it's in everything.
So if a person's dealing with a spiritual or physical problem or whatever, they can get healing through the Reiki energy, even if they're not physically in your presence.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. When you learn it, you learn a specific way that you also can have it go across the miles. So yes, I do. Much of my work is done virtually. So I do spiritual counseling, I do energy healing and astrology. Every week I put out at least one, if not more, energy updates. So I listen to I look at the astrology, I listen to the sun, the stars, the moon, and then I channel a very helpful message. And you can get those by going to my website. Just go to my website. It's a beautiful, I feel like it's like walking into my space. You can look and see, oh, Mary does that and that. But it's all connected in a way that brings you to understand and know who you are as a spiritual being and to help heal our physical, emotional, mental, human selves on the spirit level first, which is our makeup. And then it goes through the emotions, mental, and so I combine all of that, all of these.
I mean, you're so gifted to be able to do all these things, Mary. And you now have a special offer that I want everybody to know about, because you have a special offer for our audience that is called Love Notes from Loved Ones in Spirit.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about that too?
Yes, sure. I added that to my collection of offerings. It's a wonderful way it's a great gift too. They're fabulous gifts to give to people. So it's a 2-page or more written from me, love note from your loved one in spirit. So I just need to know their name and their relationship. And sometimes I'll say, there's one little question but I connect with your loved one in spirit and I write their message to you as a love note and send it. If you get it as a gift, I can either mail it.
What a beautiful gift.
Yeah. And they're so profound because I started my connection with spirit through writing. And so these are just a great gift. Yeah. So I'm also special for that for our listeners here today or whenever. Just go to my website. You'll see them there.
That's great. Didn't you mention to me that you have another offering for our Grief and Rebirth podcast audience? What is that?
Yes, I do. I have a heart centering, heart healing meditation. It's 7 minutes and you can go to my website and under find meditations. You can download it. You can listen to it. You can save it. And those are just so important. It's 7 minutes of turning within. It is a healing across the miles sent to you. And that's my gift for.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mary, so much.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated, I'm sure. And talk about starting their healing journeys. It's a perfect way to begin.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And now for my question about good to the last drop, I'm going to let you answer that one. Why should a person heal in this lifetime? Why not wait for 400 lifetimes from now? You're going through all this stuff. Why should we go out of our way with all the healers available and all to do this now? And could you also share, since you have made such a beautiful contribution to it, why is good to the last drop a great gift for yourself or others moving into the healing third chapter of their lives? And let's explain to people what that's about.
Okay. Why should people heal? All right. Well, we can look at the world and know why. I believe we're in such a profoundly amazing time on this planet in our human form, our spirits. We're spirits having a human experience. And so, we have so much available to us. Like, I feel like we're on a fast track right now, that healing can happen quickly, but but there's layers, of course. And so to focus on our healing in this lifetime it can happen quickly, right? So if we do not, so I don't want to be negative, but I will.
If you choose not to do your healing.
If you choose not to do your healing, I'm seeing that, well, what I know is true is you'll have to do it in another life. So why not get it? Why not do as much as you can? Because it's available now. I will say, 50 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, my lifetime, so much has changed. So much is understood about who we are as human beings now. So if we do our healing, we can have the most amazing lives and share it with others and help others along the way. And that is what we're doing here. If you don't want to, that's fine. You'll have to come back.
Not only that, though, to me, and this is what I tell people about healing, is that you're carrying all this pain in this backpack. And it's like everywhere you go, even though you think you're ignoring it, it's there and it's pulling you down. And all the healing that I've done in my life, it's like the releasing of all that pain. Your backpack gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And you can actually appreciate, instead of ruminating and how am I going to handle this, or being vigilant or upset or into the drama, you can actually free yourself to enjoy this life that you're living.
Yes, Irene, you said it great. It's like, because there's so much beauty, there's so much love, there is. And if you're not healing, if you're not taking off the blinders and the backpack and the heaviness, you're not seeing the potential of what this earth life is offering every moment. Every moment there's something that takes your breath away. The bald eagle that we happened to see before we got on air today. And so, the healing allows us to lighten up and see things through this lens of beauty and potential and love.
It's so wonderful and it's so worth it. And I've been often told by healers that the most courageous people in the world are the ones who go to healing, because it's not easy to face your stuff. No. And but once you do, literally, what a relief.
It's
true. Then, right. And now I want to segue another way to heal, and we can talk about this, is let me tell you all about Good to the Last Drop. So we have 3 chapters in our lives. The first chapter is our childhoods, our formative years. The second chapter is what Mary and I have been talking about, the marriages, the divorces, the bringing up children, all that, the working. Now you get to the third chapter of your life, right? What are you going to do with that? Are you going to decide that this is a time for me to get sick and die? Or do you decide that I'm going to take the lessons from my first 2 chapters and what am I going to do with it to move into, can I make this third chapter a healing third chapter, right? And yours is one of the stories, Mary. And I chose these amazing stories of people who have been through so much, and they took the lessons from their lives and they created these wonderful things that they're doing in their lives. So they're not involved with worrying about what's to be. They're involved, right? They're involved with a mission and making a difference and all of that. What would you like to say? But I just wanted to tell everybody about what this is about, because so many people are approaching retirement and they are at loose ends.
Yeah.
And I'm told by so many people that the different stories are very uplifting.
Because we need one of the things about being a good steward of the earth life, I suppose, is when we get into our third chapter, and again, this is from our ancestors, right? We share wisdom. We share, okay, I've been there, been there, done that. And here's what I learned, or here's how I can help you. Or just by telling the story, it gives the people reading it hope and something to look forward to, alternative view of something. So, yeah. And we're called back to do that, and you provided that. That's the Good to the Last Drop is, I don't know how many stories of people.
I have about 24 stories in it. And each one is like, what people say to me all the time is, I can't believe what some of these people went through and how uplifting it is, what they did with it and what they're working with now in their third chapter.
Yes. So mine was, I had started writing about how did I get through the death loss of a child. I mean, that is like the worst thing that people consider as an experience. And so I wrote how I met myself. And I wrote the piece with specific ways. And I did put many of them in my book too, the 111 Days of Divine Intervention, how I had to meet myself, in love, with self-compassion and with understanding, because I didn't always get it from others, which was shocking and surprising and more hurtful. But that again is a wisdom to share. People don't act as if you will hope all the time. And so what do you do with that? And I think that's a big question or guidance also in life for everyone.
So look at what you've been through, the grieving and all. And what did you decide to do here in your third chapter? You wrote a book called 111 Days of Divine Intervention. And what am I doing in my third chapter? I'm facilitating for people to contribute to Good to the Last Drop so that people can know that they have options.
Yes.
From their life experiences when they get to this third chapter.
Yeah, and we need to do that because what's the cultural way? Oh, you retire and then you go, you just go be quiet, go live in a home, separate from all of life. And, but we have so much wisdom to share, and you gave us the opportunity in that book. And that's what I'm doing till the day I transition. I'm going to be sharing my healing arts and my work and the joy of life. That gives me great joy to know that if one person can be inspired to get up the next day after a terrible thing happens and to hear, read something or hear my voice or hear your voice on in the podcast and be given hope, that's everything. That's right. Everything. That's how we go through all of the challenges that we're faced with.
It's true. And again, the continuation of the healing journey, one way or the other. And what is the Mary D'Agostino tip for finding joy in life? You probably have a list of about 400. Would you like to hear?
I do. Well, I'm going to just share this little thing that I got after Brandon passed during the darkest times at the beginning, where I was like, whoa, I know I'm going to move on. But I had this vision, and I had this vision of this dark tunnel kind of, even though I was in the portal of light, I couldn't go all the way through the portal as Brandon did. I had to stop and be where I am in my human life. And I saw that darkness, and I heard, felt, and knew through the darkness is joy. Through the darkness, go through the darkness. There's joy. And it was just this exuberant feeling of life. And so I look for that every single day. And I tell you, it's not Pollyanna. It's real. It is a healing balm. It's like a shot of medicine to notice the things that are right there in your life to bring you joy. Nature is a big one for me. This morning I woke up earlier than I really wanted to, but as I looked out the window, the sun was rising, and we get some gorgeous sunrises, brilliant colors. And I just was like, wow. And the fall oranges. And I was like, oh, Creator is such a good artist. And that to me is joy. And then the more you do that, it fills up your cup, right? And so the other thing I just have to say, I just have a new little granddaughter born in February.
Speaking of joy.
Oh my gosh. So intentionally, I said, she's bringing me joy. And so I got to be with her yesterday, and she is a baby full of joy. And she's a very happy baby. Of course, why wouldn't she be? And so she brings me such joy. Just the innocent face, the little eyes, the big eyes. And so any way you can find joy in those little ways, and gratitude when you are grateful that you have that in the moment, and then that fills, that plants a seed. That's how I find joy.
I think that's beautiful. And so many people feel that if they're grieving or they've been through things, joy is not something they can ever experience again, but that's not true.
You can. You can.
You can, right?
Yep.
Right? Mary, I have to say, my heartfelt thank you for the healing and inspiration you have brought to so many over the years. And now your inspiring book, 111 Days of Divine Intervention, is sure to become a soothing balm for the grieving hearts of its readers. And I thank you from my heart for this wise, insightful, and enlightening interview on Grief and Rebirth podcast today. And as I like to say, to be continued. Thank you again, Mary. Many blessings. Thanks for tuning in to Grief and Rebirth. Remember, you can dive deeper into everything we've discussed by checking out the show notes and all past episodes at ireneweinberg.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Irene S. Weinberg on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and wherever you love to hang out online. Plus, we're on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. For those of you listening, you'll find links to my 2 books, Good to the Last Drop and They Serve Bagels in Heaven, in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see those books listed right above, so don't miss out. And here comes a special treat. If you sign up for Audible as a first-time user using my link, which you can find in the show notes, you can get They Serve Bagels in Heaven for free. And finally, people often ask me what I read, what I use, and what I recommend for healing and self-care. So I've carefully curated a compilation of those items to share with you. You can head over to kit.co/Grief and Rebirth to check them out. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, many blessings.